Hello everyone, and welcome to this Vibrant Music Teacher Chat, where today we're celebrating Vibrant Music Teaching's 5th birthday. Today on the show I'm going to be running through my top 10 favourite games. So Vibrant Music Teaching is a membership for music teachers, and we have a huge games library as well as courses and all sorts of other goodies. But the games library is really a core part of what we do because we believe in having fun in our lessons and our students having fun and learning all the better for it. So I'm going to dive straight in. We're going to go in reverse order to make sure we get through all the games. Here is number 10. Okay, number 10 is Lock and Key. So Lock and Key is a more advanced game, intermediate. It works on relative, majors and minors. And the reason I love this game is that I use it to introduce my students, get them comfortable with the circle of fifths. So the way I use Lock and Key isn't necessarily all laid out in the how to play section because I have a bit of an extension for it that I wanted to fill you in on. I have used this a lot, especially last year when I had a lot of teens and tweens that really needed to get a lot more comfortable with the circle of fifths. And so, as you can see there, it has just the key names and then the key signatures on some of the cards. And what I have them do is first of all draw a circle of fifths. So I have them mark out the 12 nodes or the 6 lines, like they're kind of drawing a sort of clock face, and then label. We start with the lines, by the way, so that they don't end up squishing all the letters at the end, or they don't miss a letter because they know that there's 12 spots, right? So we start with the lines, and I do have a video on this, by the way, on the YouTube channel that you can look for. It's just like how to draw the circle of fifths. And I have them draw it out and then add the relative minors outside of that. And they use that as like a cheat sheet, although I don't really like that term, but they use that during the game to help them play at first. And that's enough of a challenge at first because they need to figure out everything and match everything and use the circle of fifths to figure out the number of flats or sharps in a given key. And then, after playing this over several weeks, we then do it without the circle of fifths in front of us. So with an imaginary circle of fifths, and you need to figure it out and remember where things go. So it can be a good transition to start with. They're looking at it just face up, and then they have to flip it over and only look when necessary, and then flip it back over to play. Like they can't actually stay staring at it, they can just peek at it. And then they do it without, totally. And that gets them so comfortable with all the key signatures, which honestly I found a lot of even late intermediate students aren't comfortable with. And so I find it really useful to go all the way through there, make sure they've got all 12. G flat is no harder than C. There's no problem with doing them all together if you have a system for it. And so that is our system. So that is Lock and Key. If you haven't tried it, you might like to check it out. The next one is more of a classic. You might have seen this one around. This is relative rhythms. We actually kind of have 2 levels of this now. We have relative rhythms and related rhythms. So they're similar, but related rhythms works for compound time signatures. So these are not entirely invented by us. It's an idea that's been floating around for some time. This is a printable version that you don't have to make yourself. You can just print it out and cut them up and you're ready to go. What they are is relative in size. So the semibreve or the whole note is 4 times the width of a quarter note or a crotchet, right? And so on and so forth. They all fit together, and there are time signatures, as you can see there as well. These can just be used for so many different things. That's why they're fantastic. So relative rhythms can be used just for laying out like a note value tree, or they can be used for various games. We have loads of game ideas for them inside the Rhythm in 5 book and course. So if you're curious about that, you can check that out. Relative Rhythms is one of the ones that is not only in the membership, there is a free version as well. So I've linked that in the description. If you're not a member, you want to give one of our resources a go, you can go ahead and download that totally for free as well. So Rest Savers is number 8 on my list, and it is available as a freebie as well. So if you're not a member, you can check out the link in the description for the member link, and then there's the non-member link as well. Put them both there. So this one I chose to put on the list because of its simplicity, because of how useful it is, and also because it's a game that you can play as part of your playing at the piano. Games don't have to be in a separate area, with like sitting on the floor or at a games table. They don't have to be away from the piano. They can be part of the play. And Rest Savers is one like that. So every card, I have students draw a card at random. Nice to hear, Mary. That's awesome. Students draw a card at random, and then they have something you need to do during the rest on the card. So if you've had a student who just never remembers to do the rest, or like just doesn't think they're important, honestly, but wouldn't tell you that, then this is your solution, okay? So they just draw a card and it gives them something to do. For example, one of them there on the screen says touch your shoulders. So every time they see the rest, they touch their shoulders. There's two benefits to this. They think it's just helping them remember the rests and that you're being a bit silly. If you're me anyway, that's what they think of me, by making them do that. But the other benefit of this is you're normally talking about sort of beginner-ish students who have this problem of just like missing out rests. And it will also give them practice with finding their spot on the piano again. Ta-da! Double duty. So I love it for that reason as well. So students take their hands off the piano to touch the shoulders or whatever they're going to do. And therefore they have to find where they are on the piano again. So if you have students that struggle with either of those or both of those issues, Rest Savers is a fantastic one. So next up is a newer game. This is number 7 on our list. This is called Right, Left, Smash, Crash. And this came out of actually a student. It's inspired by a student, not my student, but another teacher who works at Colourful Keys. He had a student, whenever I created this a couple of years ago, year and a half ago, something like that, who just was mixing up left and right. Simple as that. And I came up with this idea, putting together the concepts of left, right, and up and down. And it's become something that's actually really useful for many students, even beyond like the preschoolers who would often mix up left and right. It can be really useful because you're making sure they know the difference between playing with their right hand and left hand, and then, which way they're going. And it just kind of maps that whole thing out in 3D for them. So it's simple, but it's silly and it's fun, and it's called Smash Crash because we crash onto the keys, so we're practicing flopping our arm onto the keys as well. Our hand, but using arm weight. So just a really fun all-rounder, great for young students, but anyone who is sort of mixing up the coordination of piano can benefit from that one. So the next one is Rainbow Race. Now, this is number 6 on my list. And it made it to my list because it's my little representation, there's many games that fit this category, but to me, this represents getting the best out of the bad situation of COVID-19. So that's it. It's not the only reason I love it, but it does hold a special place because it has that special, memory for me of saying, okay, hang on, students are sitting at home, we're teaching them online, and we get to see their terrible keyboards and make them replace them and all of that. So there were many benefits we got out of that, actually. But one of the challenges that I suddenly came across, and I realized a lot of teachers were seeing too, including, I had a chat about this, I remember early on in the pandemic, with Sarah, who was the content manager on our site, on our team, and we were talking about the fact that we realized that so many of our students didn't understand like staff navigation terms. Like we would say, start from line 2, and they would be mixing up bars or measures and lines, or start from bar 5 and they couldn't find it and they didn't know about bar numbers or measure numbers and all of those things, that it was just like, oh, wow. And phrases were the other one. So I put those all together in this game. So I love it that it brings those together. And it helps our students navigate their music at home when we're not with them and can't point to it. And also just they should know how to do that anyway. It's just that the online lessons highlighted that. But the other thing about this one is it's a fantastic equalizer. I love to play this with mixed groups of students, like students at different levels, because honestly they could all use a refresher on these terms from time to time. And even if one of them, knows all of these terms and the other doesn't, it still has all this randomization. So it's like totally chance who wins, and you can help one of them through it. It's just a great one all round. Doesn't last too long. It's a great one to squeeze into lessons as well. Yes, exactly. And I know you're teaching online forever now, right? That's the plan. So this one is extra important for you. All right, here comes number 5. So this is another one that is a great equalizer. I love to play this with mixed groups of students at different ages, students at different levels. It's called Cristofori's quiz, and it's just, you really just guess the answer because it's multiple choice, and it's a quiz about the piano. And it's great to see that, even some students, even with like the number of keys, and the multiple choice answers, they won't know that it's 88, for example. So there are more basic things. And then there are things they have no way of knowing. Like they don't know when it was invented or more specific things like that. And so the funniest one actually is what they guess for how long a grand piano is. Like, I think we all know the answer to that one. But I think the big answer I gave them is 27 feet. And I just... even when I explain it in meters or in the length of the room, they still sometimes go for that. So I think it's funny. But again, it's great for students of all ages, all levels. It's very equal because people are mostly guessing the answer and they get to discover about the piano as they go. And I think our students all need to learn a little bit more about the instrument they actually play. Number 4 then. We're into the final 4. This one I picked out because it's such a classic. I'm surprised it hasn't come up in the comments yet, but I'm sure it would for many of you. FACEjibbidy-jibbidy-FACE is one that I created very early on in the library based on member requests. I can't remember who requested this in the first place because it was back at the very start of the library. It was like month 3. I think, maybe month 2 of the library. So it's really taking us all the way back, and it's still a classic. It works on the skips alphabet, so teaching students to identify notes not with mnemonics and not just with landmark notes, because sometimes that's not enough for students, but focusing on the skips alphabet because it works the whole way up the staff and it connects all the dots together. So it works on line notes and space notes separately or combined to make a bigger game. And it's just a classic one. It comes out every time we have to teach the skips alphabet. For our students, if they're heading into Piano Safari Book 2, that's around the time we would be teaching them this game and practicing it with them. Now, it didn't make my top favorite note name game because that one goes to this. So this is number 3, and it's the highest ranking of a note name game. And it is Double or Nothing. It has already come up in the comments. I love this one. So the way it works is, okay, there's several things that make this a winner. Number 1 is the theme. It's like a video game kind of theme. And they look kind of like little Space Invader monsters. So students love that. They get a kick out of it. And it immediately makes sense to them. The other thing about it though is they turn over a card and it has 2 notes on it. One in the treble and one in the bass. And they can choose to name 1 or 2. If they choose to name 1 and they get it right, they just roll the die and move forward that many. If they choose to name 2 and get them both right, they roll the die, double their score, and move forward that many. But if they've chosen to name 2 and they get 1 wrong but the other one right, they can't move at all. So it's a test of their confidence with note naming, and that's why I love it. And it came out a lot the last couple of weeks because we're just back from summer break, and it's a great one for that. Because I want to know not just can my students still name notes, but are they confident that they can? All right, number 2, second to the top, interval, Sprinterval, Shminterval. Does anyone want to guess, by the way, while I talk about number 2, which one is going to be number 1? Does anyone have a guess for my favourite? So Interval, Sprinterval is again a one that was created quite early on, which is why it kind of holds a special place for me, even though I love all the games. This one, we go up the whole staff, and we do it by moving in intervals. So if you roll a 6, or sorry, not roll, you turn over a 6th, you move forward a 6th, not 6 spots, but a 6th, right, up the staff. And they need to navigate the invisible middle C line in the middle and teleport to the treble clef. If you know, you know. If you don't worry about it. But all of those things combined make it great. I also love it because it can work with students at slightly different levels, but close together, which is a situation I have a lot, where one is more of a beginner and one is more of a late beginner. And so the beginner can tap it out and you can help them count the interval and figure it out. And then the late beginner has the challenge of you're not going to help, and they have to jump. They have to count it with their eyes and jump to the next note they think it is. And if you want to add an extra note layer to that, they have to name the note they're going to land on as well. So it just has those multiple layers, which I believe makes it a total winner. Now, who has guessed? Anyone can guess my number 1? I don't think so. Okay, I'll have to show you. Here we go. All right, I cheated. I admit it, I cheated. Okay, I have 2 number 1s, but I couldn't help it. I had to go 2 different directions. I just couldn't pick a favorite. So, true story, I actually had Nimble Neighbours up here, and then I remembered Yeti hadn't made it onto my list, and I was like, oh my gosh, that should have been number 1, but Nimble Neighbours has to be number 1. So they had to tie. It was just a situation. I couldn't help it. So, Nimble Neighbours, let's start with that. This is a favourite to me because it works on speedy naming of intervals, or speedy identification of intervals. It has a little bit of logic to it, but it's not too hard for any of my kids to understand. And it's just great for its fast-paced nature. They get really into it, and they can play it over and over and over. They never get bored of it. So I absolutely love that one. And then Yeti is a completely different direction. So Yeti is the first in our series of growth mindset and grit games. I call them gritty critters. There's 8 of them. This was the first one that came out. It focuses on the concept of yet statements. So not I can't do this, but I can't do this yet. And including hidden yet statements or hidden fixed mindset statements. I love it not just because of the concept it focuses on, even though I think grit and growth mindset is really important. And I like the structure of the game. But I also love it because I use it a lot in online groups. And I think it's a great way to get kids chatting to each other. So not just me spurring the conversation the whole time, but them truly chatting to each other and debating things or helping each other figure out the answer. And I just think it's a great connector, a really social one, especially for the online situation where it's harder to build that up. So there you have my top 10, slightly 11 favorite games, but I have all 21 of my top 21, including the joint first place, in the description. So if you missed what I said, or you weren't sure about the name of something, or you just want to see it as a big list, you can click on the description. It'll either be below me or to the side, depending on your device, and you can check out my favorites. But again, it's not about the best ones. Those are just my favorites at the moment. When I made this list today, they might change in the future. Now, before we move on to the drawing for the winner, I do want questions so I can keep my silly camera on. So you can type the word question followed by any question at any point, and I'm going to come back to all of those in a second. The more questions you add, the longer I will stay in my birthday themed camera appearance, which is a prize in itself. But right now we're going to go and do the prize drawing. So one lucky member is about to win VMT for life, a lifetime membership to VMT with no charge ever again. The entries are already in and we're ready to hit the button. Let's do it. Okay, I know that's a little bit hard to see on the screen, but I know who that is. I can recognize the logo. So that is actually Jonelle Ut, or Ut. Jonelle, someday you're going to have to tell me how to pronounce your surname. But that is Jonelle for sure. So congratulations to Jonelle. Woo, confetti! I'm going to see if I can quickly find that post for you to show you Jonelle's winning post. And you can keep your questions rolling in. So again, just type the word question followed by your question. And let me see if I can do this quickly enough to show you. The pressure's on. No, not really. Okay. Here we go. Oh no, maybe I can't. Yeah, no, it's not updating. Okay, so I can't do it. But I do remember the post. It was Jonelle, and I do recognize the logo, so I know it was here. Her congratulations, VMT for life. Oh my gosh, so deserved. Such a great member of the community, and you're always posting on social media about our resources, so that wasn't planned, but I love that we get to give you VMT for life, and huge congratulations to you. Now let's get to these questions. You can keep them rolling in. Just start with the word question so I don't miss it. Look at this! I told you it was good. Okay, nice. Tanya was the first question. Can you talk about pacing a lesson when including piano power boosters? I'm using it mostly with Piano Safari. Okay, great question. I'll just give some context for other people watching. So piano power boosters are our curricula, which are basically everything but the pieces. So they're designed to cover theory and technique and rhythm and oral work through games and through improvisation so that you can kind of structure those things that don't usually fall within a method book. So my question back to you, Tanya, as I answer this, is going to be how long are your lessons? Because that will greatly affect what you can do. And I was talking about this the other day, or ranting. I'll be honest, I was ranting. I was at a family dinner the other day. I was ranting a little bit about 30-minute lessons again, because I just think they're silly. Not silly on your part, just silly that that's the default, but I understand that it is. Anyway, so I'm going to assume for a second that you are trying to fit it into 30 minutes. You can let me know. Oh yeah, you've got mostly 45s. Okay, well then you can really fit this in. So you're having trouble fitting everything in, or you're just having trouble structuring it. What I would generally be doing is a little bit from column A, a little bit from column B, and going back and forth between the two. Okay, so I would start with something from the power booster as the warm-up. Make sure it doesn't exceed 5 minutes, so you still have time. Then do 10 minutes of work on pieces and stuff from Piano Safari. So that would normally start, for me, it would normally start with working on a new rote piece, if that's something that's coming up today. Yes, I wouldn't hear their practice pieces first. I would start with the new thing, okay? So I'd start with the new rote piece, if we were doing one that day, so that I can revisit it enough times throughout the lesson. Revisit it enough times throughout the lesson to ensure that they remember it later. So I would do that, and then a little bit of reading work, either a new piece or something they practice, and go back to something from the Piano Power Booster. Same thing, back and forth like that. I know that feels choppy to some people, and I get your point, but I do think it's a matter of getting used to it. There is a certain degree to which my brain kind of does switch contexts easily, or quicker than a lot of people maybe, but I think it's also practice. And that's what I've seen from working with teachers who work here, is that they can get better at this. And I do think it's worth getting better because it helps you fit more in. It helps the learning be more efficient because your student is constantly working. They're never left working on one thing for 20 minutes and just sort of fatiguing with it and not really making the progress they could be if they were going back and forth. This is all basically back to this idea of interleaved teaching, which I'll hopefully be putting together a masterclass on for members next year. But for now, there is a YouTube video on it. So that would get you started on that idea. I hope that gives you some idea, Tanya, but do follow-up questions, just let me know. Now, Nefeli, I'm not sure how to answer this because I'm not sure what you mean by more strategy-based. I'm going to guess you mean not chance-based, so let me know if I'm wrong about that. If that's the case, I would say we're about 50-50. So I'm surprised if you're struggling to find ones that are not in that category. Does that make sense? Just an example, the one I was doing yesterday with students is called STEM fail. There's no note in there. STEM fail. So STEM fail, at first glance, might appear to be a random chance game. It's actually strategic because they need to be the last one to cover a note and make the whole board correct. It'll make sense when you look at the game, but I'm just using this as an example. So because of that, if they place a STEM fail on top of another STEM fail, they can delay the point at which the final correct STEM is placed, and so that is strategic. There are quite a lot of games like that. Yeah, I don't have them categorized in that way. I'm wondering whether it's something we could add. I think it would be overkill for the categories because we do need to keep them. While we like to be able to fine-tune things as much as possible, I think it might be too much to add. You can let me know and debate with me in the forums if you think, no, that would be a really important filter for me. But yeah, that gives you one example, STEM fail. There are loads of others that are that case. I would say there are even more that are knowledge/strategy versus luck and chance-based. I do try to have enough chance-based ones because if I don't, then it's hard to play with teacher and student. And so that's why. Yeah. Okay, sure. I was just giving that as an option. It would be something we could debate, but I don't think it would quite fit. Okay, I'm going to change my birthday hat. I promise something's coming, if it'll load. Okay, I'll give it a second. I think that'll load in a sec. If anyone has any other questions, please do add them into the chat. It's always so much fun to hang out with you, and thank you for celebrating VMT's birthday. If you are a member, please know that I appreciate you so much. I won't gush too much, but I cannot believe this community sometimes. Like, it really does astound me. And I can't believe that I get to run it. Like, honestly, it's the best job in the world. It has its hard points for sure, and I do work hard, but it is so much fun. I mean, we're built around fun, so that should be no surprise, but it's just the best. It's so much fun to hang out with flamingos all day. So thank you for making that possible. Thank you for being a member. If anyone watching is not a member, you can sign up at vibrantmusicteaching.com, of course. And membership is well worth it. Members tell us that again and again. I think we're very good value, so I hope you'll check it out. Okay, Karen. So Colourful Keys is basically the free stuff. That's how I would simplify it. And Vibrant Music Teaching is the paid site. Vibrant Music Teaching is a membership that you join, and then you pay an annual or monthly subscription to be able to access that site. So when you're not a member, you see very little on the site. When you are a member, you see all the content. Okay? Colourful Keys is the site where it's colourfulkeys.ie, and it is the site where I have my studio information for my piano studio here, and also our blog, which is totally free. You can just read that at your leisure. It's blog articles and there's podcast episodes. That will give you inspiration and some ideas. Vibrant Music Teaching is where we keep the resources that you can download and go, or go much more in depth with one of our courses. Hope that helps clarify that. Thank you, Carrie. That's so sweet of you to say. Oh my gosh. And thank you, Tanya. I appreciate you too. Really do. Mary, why don't we have a flamingo themed game? You know what? I was creating one that's for 2023 today, and it does have a flamingo in it, but it's not a flamingo themed game. Why don't we have one? That should have been your question, not should we. I mean, you can be more brash than that. Why don't we? How did I have that oversight? I need to get on that. We need a flamingo game. If anyone has suggestions for something that would work great as a flamingo game, I'm just imagining balancing things. Let me know, because we definitely should have one. It's totally crazy that we don't. We should have one for each type of flamingo. Even though ours is loosely based, our logo, interesting insider tip, probably not interesting, but it's loosely based on the Caribbean flamingo. That's what I base it on. Oh, Tracy, great question. So you can use online dice. I do that sometimes, where if you just Google the word dice, you can get one that just like works on the screen, and sometimes I show that to students and roll it for them, and they get to see what the answer is. Honestly, the majority of times though, I just roll it for them. I tell them what they got. They don't mind. Yeah, but if you want a on-screen version, you can absolutely just Google it, dice, and it will show you something that will work. Let me see if I can do it right now for you. Yeah, there's one I've clicked on before, virtual dice roller. So that can work very simply. Something like this. You can select the number of dice, and I just put that on screen, and you roll the dice and it shows them the answer. So that's an option. But as I say, you can just roll a physical dice in your studio, wherever you are, and just tell them what it said. They trust you. It's not like, I think the problem might arise if you have two students and they're each rolling their own, because it would be so tempting for them to cheat or for them to think the other person was cheating. So, yeah, that's what I was thinking. I have to incorporate that they have to stand on one foot somehow. I mean, that's a must, right? Oh, thank you so much for saying that, Karen. I really appreciate it. Okay, I think... Oh, no, I missed one. Thank you, Donna. I appreciate that. I made this myself. I have a background in dress making, if you don't know that. So this is one I made because I just found the fabric. I came across it kind of randomly. I was like, oh my gosh, I need a dress in that. So it had to come out for the birthday. Christy, best books for adult students. I have a video all about that. You can watch it on the YouTube channel or in the video library inside Vibrant Music Teaching. It's in both places. It's called Method Books for Older Students, something like that. If you look that up, piano books for older students. I'm not going to do it now, but it's, yeah, if you look that up in YouTube or on the site, you'll come across it, and I go through my favorite method books. I'll give you them here, but in the video, I do go through like who I would use each one for, because it's not cut and dry like I like this one, the end. But my top ones would be Piano Safari for the older student, Fired Up by Piano Pronto, and I less frequently but still sometimes use Piano Adventures for the older student, or whatever it's called, older beginner. Thank you, Mary. Glad I could help. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you all so much. Keep your thoughts coming through about our flamingo game. We definitely need one to exist, at least one. Can't believe, Mary, you're the first one to point that out. Thank you for joining me for this birthday celebration. Prelabration, that's what I was about to say. And congratulations again to Janelle on winning a VMT for life. I'm thrilled for you and thrilled to run this community. So thank you again for being a part of it. I'll see you back here next week.